Alright, here we are. Valerie had a friend in Eugene that was moving, just wanted to get rid of a machine, so I was fortunate to end up with this machine. And we're going to take a look at it real quick here. And I've already done a little bit of cleaning because the thing smelled pretty bad, a lot of mildew, things like that, but haven't done a whole lot. I just kind of wiped off the legs. Had to put some new feet on it, leg levers, as they were so corroded and non-adjustable. But starting at the front here, we can see the decals used to be red, no longer red, and peeling pretty bad in places, especially on the left side here of the body, just coming off in chunks. So, but the cabinet looks like it's okay. No serious water damage, although you can see evidence of moisture, probably, not sure, beer, pop, whatnot, getting in there. The beer seal was pretty sticky, a lot of sugar. Had a real hard time getting that off the glass. But starting at the front, someone kicked in the door, so the door's all bent and doesn't close very well, and they used probably a screwdriver and hammer to pry this thing open because evidently they lost the keys. And so that's damaged pretty good. I've already found out that you can't get a replacement door for this anymore, so is what it is. We'll have to remove the whole assembly and see if we can get her straightened out to where she'll open and close and lock. And when they kicked it in, they also kicked out the coin mechanisms here that I can see. There's still one left, but one's missing. And then they knocked all sorts of other components loose, like the illumination for the coin slot and who knows what else. Looking down into the machine, we've got no power coming out of the power interface box. I already know that, and I checked this, the fuse is missing. So there's a lot of shorts in this machine, and I'm sure they blew that fuse, and that was the end of it. So it's going to be quite a while before we power this thing up because we've got a lot of loose ends. And just starting up here, looking at the coils, we've got these resistors that are no longer attached. So you've got just wires going into space, and I'm sure there's plenty of those. You can see that the soldering was just absolutely horrible. And the company that took care of this at one time was American Amusement out of Eugene, and I've seen their machines around town, and they're really bad. They don't take care of them at all. And evidently this one ended up in the hands of a private owner at one time. But underneath here, it doesn't look horrible. I don't see any burn marks around the coils, so I'm assuming, and I've already checked a bunch of these with the ohm meter, and they all so far appear to be good. I haven't gone all the way back into it, but again, that part of the machine doesn't look too bad. Really interesting how dirty this is. This is very unusual, which means they must have had this cabinet open for a long time, because normally you can't get dust in here. But you can see, even though I've already vacuumed it up, there's quite a bit of built up dirt. And then looking at the play field, the usual stuff, easy stuff to fix. Plastics, the slingshots are broken. The rubber, normally there'd be white on this machine. It's a 1989 Earthshaker, so the standard color convention would be yellow flippers, red bands on the flippers, and then white rubber, which is easy to replace. And then we've got you know, things like broken plastic, like the pop bumpers. But, you know, a lot of the main stuff looks like it's in pretty good shape. And I have looked in most of this stuff, a lot of this stuff for Earthshaker, the plastics anyway, OEM are still available. Now the playfield's got some wear, and the Mylar you can see is separating, but overall not horrible. You know, it's definitely playable. And then coming, well, here on the side we see somebody during the move bent the key, so that's going to be a we're going to have to try to straighten that out, get the key out, and see if we can get something made. If that doesn't happen, then we'll have to figure out how to replace that lock, which I really don't want to do because that looks pretty unique. And later, this is an 89, you know, a year later they started putting all the locks right here, which makes a lot more sense, because if you're trying to service a machine, it's very difficult to get to the side of it, typically. So looking at the back, we got all the boards, and so here you have the power control board, and it looks good. The fuses, you know, cursory inspection, they look good. You'd have to pull them all out, make sure that they've got the right amperage, make sure it's the right, you know, whether it's fast blow, slow blow, make sure it's the right fuse for the job. And you've got this is a Series 11B Williams CPU board. You know, generally it looks pretty good. The first thing I did is pull the batteries out, and you can see it's got acid damage here. So I actually have to pull this whole CPU board off, pull this off, desolder it, and then either put in a remote battery pack or resolder a new one on there. So I've already started to take the plugs off, you know, numbering those, and also checking the GI connectors, which there's some interesting stuff, like this one's all burnt and someone cut off the wire, so be interesting to find out what that went to. And then we'll have to repair the header pins and the Molex connector, and again that requires, this is the digital matrix board, it's separated out from the CPU board, so I have to pull that board off too, and repair that circuit board. But looking up, this is the sound board, audio board, and then the CPU, I can see here we've got revision 3 of Earthshaker ROM, and then for the sound, revision 1. So that'd just be a matter of getting on the computer and finding out what the latest chips are, and if there's a later revision, we can update that if we get that far. Now this is scary, because I know this is not Williams. You know, somewhere along the line, somebody, you know, did some jerry-rigging here, so that's going to require a leap of faith here after everything else gets looked at. These are all your transistors. I'll go through and check those. But again, everything sort of looks pretty good back here. I mean, this is actually the best part of the machine, you know, except for some of this jerry-rigging and a few burnt Molex connectors and the acid-damaged battery holder. It's really not horrible, and so that's pretty encouraging. So overall, it's going to be a while before we power this thing up, because again, I want to get all that wiring checked and check the fuses and the transistors and the coils, make sure we don't have any shorts, and before I put in that 8 amp slow burn fuse and fire this baby up. Here we see that it's the Earthshaker, and it is model 568. The serial number is 212464, and I've already noticed that some of these components are date stamped, like the playfield. It says here January 11th, 1989, and here it says this is when it was inspected, April 24th, 1989, and it was inspected by J. Santiago. Well, some interesting things. This was the first machine ever to have a shaker motor, and that's what this bad boy is right here. We don't know if it works or not, but it's kind of cool. This machine was designed by Pat Lawler, who also designed Roadshow, which is over there, and that also has a shaker motor, which means the machine vibrates. In this case, it vibrates when there's an earthquake happening. In Roadshow, it vibrates in certain conditions like multi-ball and things like that, and it kind of adds an interesting element to the game because it makes you kind of nervous. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. So we'll see if that bad boy works eventually. Other than that, that's a precursor look at the Earthshaker that we got from Eugene, and you know, really cool and excited about this thing in terms of you know, trying to get it back and restored to a playable condition. Oh, by the way, the back glass looks real good. There's only a couple of small issues, and there's nothing you can do about that on a back glass. So for a machine that's 28, 29 years old, I think we're in pretty good shape. But here it's got a little bit missing. Some scratches here where somebody dinged it, you know, big scratch here. But when you look at it from the front side, it's not really noticeable, you know, unless you're like super crazy to attention to detail. But it's, you know, your focus point kind of is the reflective glasses, and you know, overall very pleased with the back glass. So that's it. That's about 11 minutes on what we see initially here in Earthshaker.